Boop 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 boop
Boop, 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 boop,
boop 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 boop
boop, boop.
boop.
I'm ready to start.
Already. Right now?
Right now.
Or like in a couple of seconds. Do you need to take a breath?
No, I'm good. Right this second.
Right this second?
Now.
Who are we?
We are the Periodic Roundtable.
Welcome again to the Periodic Roundtable. We've been recording the past couple minutes. It's fine.
Oh my God.
That's going to be the new intro.
Is
Yeah, it'll be great. Anyways, welcome again to the Periodic Roundtable. I, of course, your delightful host, Joel, here with...
Brittany.
And I believe today, Brittany, we're talking about AI, the artificial intelligence.
Yeah. And the Turing test that goes
Yes,
along
yes.
with it.
And how does it relate to the OI?
The OI.
Organic intelligence. Brittany, come on.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Well, we're not redoing it again.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Well, let's dive into it. Let's not dibble-dabble.
Yeah. So we can start off by talking about the history of AI. So AI actually was started in the 1950s by a British mathematician and computer scientist known as Alan Turing. And he published a paper titled Computing Machinery Intelligence, in which he asked if machines can actually think as people do, therefore laying the groundwork for AI.
So he was excited to try to find a way in which machines can overtake human intelligence and ascertain those logical thought processes.
Not necessarily take over human intelligence, but be able to compete with it, to be on par with it. So he wanted to start delving into how far can you push the boundaries of machine intelligence.
Well, that's fascinating. And that was in the 1950s?
It was in the 1950s. So unfortunately, it wasn't great for him because even though he's considered to be the grandfather of AI and computation, he was never recognized in the UK for his work because he was prosecuted for homosexuality in 1952. So this was a crime in the UK at the time, and he actually had to choose between over going to prison or being chemically castrated, so he chose the latter. And then he died in 1954 from cyanide poisoning, which was disputed to be a suicide.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly a suicide. So even though he was this brilliant guy who could have really pushed the boundaries of AI, he was really cut off from what he could possibly do because of these horrific laws that used to have in the UK.
I see. The terrible laws in which they don't comprehend human individuality has stopped potentially one of the grandfathers of AI pushing forward and getting us much further than we've gone so far.
Yeah, so, common theme in science, a lot of people are limited by one reason or another. So we could have gone much farther by now if we weren't so biased as human beings. But even though this did happen, he was responsible for this huge revolution in computation. However, he was also limited by the cost of computers at the time, and as well as the fact that computers at the time could not store commands. They could only execute them.
I see. So we're talking about back in the day where you had the little punch cards and you had to put it in, and
Right.
that was the code that the computer would then execute.
But they couldn't store this information, so this was a really limiting factor at the time.
So Turner is dead. Supposedly cyanide, right?
Supposedly suicide. Definitely cyanide.
Supposedly suicide, yes?
Yes.
Okay, but how do we go from there? We've lost the man with this creative idea in order to create artificial intelligence.
Well, people still were picking up on his ideas. So in 1956, there was a conference held at Dartmouth College, and that actually led to the coining of the term artificial intelligence. And it was this conference of these brilliant mathematicians and computer scientists coming together to talk about the potentials of artificial intelligence. The conference fell kind of short of original expectations because there was failure to agree on standardization in the field, but this was the catalyst that led to the explosive effort not only towards the AI field, but computation and processing power in general.
Wow, that's fascinating, which certainly has helped our computers now.
Yes, exactly. Because even though our computers now aren't necessarily all about AI, it helped lead to what we have today because they were trying to push the boundaries of what computation can do.
All right, so you have this conference, right? They coin the term artificial intelligence. They start chit-chatting and dibble-dabbling into how we can create machines in order to think and process things faster, better, and tantamount to the human mind.
Right.
Right? And this has led to stronger computers, faster, more powerful,
Yes.
bulky. Actually, the opposite of bulky.
Yes, the opposite. They've gotten smaller over time. So computers actually used to fill a whole room, and it was extremely expensive, not only for all the materials, but the space requirements as well. So even large universities, not many of them can afford to house one of these. That was kind of the push to make them smaller and lighter, so they would be more easily available to everybody.
All right, so we have the development of nanotechnology, processing chips and computers, semiconductors, that all led to the capabilities of creating smaller and smaller computers.
Right.
So when Turner was unable to actually do more work into the computation of machine intelligence because of the lack of computers and the capabilities of storage, we've now diminished that by a fast, rapid progression of semiconductor comprehension and research.
Right.
Okay, all right, so now we got that. But how does it work, Brittany?
So it's actually pretty fascinating how it works. AI uses something known as machine learning, which is technically a subfield of AI. And this is where there's a series of algorithms or instructions to complete a task are building a statistical model known as a propensity model. And the propensity model can then be used to make predictions in order to solve problems or think.
So this process of using algorithms again and again, going through, say, a flow chart inside of this computer, that's what we're going to term as thinking.
Right. So it's kind of a series of logistics there. You present a problem to it, and it can think, okay, yes or no to this problem. All right, let's go to the next problem, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so now I can see that the machine is capable of going through logical processes very fast and rapidly, right?
Right.
But they still are limited by what those programs are inside of those algorithms.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit more about algorithms so that we can understand it.
Okay, so AI algorithms can actually increase their performance by learning new heuristics, and these are strategies for solving a problem more quickly when previous solutions were less efficient. And they could also write other algorithms for themselves.
So now we have this computer that goes through all of these flowcharts, and it realizes that it can now connect one piece of that flowchart, bypass two other steps, and go to another piece.
Yeah, it's kind of like a neural network within a machine.
I see. So whenever we create those synaptic networks and we actually start learning and we create axons that can connect inside of our nerve cells, thereby increasing the neural network, which is our version of learning, the machine is doing that on a binary scale.
Exactly.
Wow, that is scarily close to what we do.
Yeah, it's very similar. The biggest problem, though, with AI over human intelligence is the fact that machines lack common sense thinking and understanding nuance in language.
In the computer language, what you say is exactly what it is. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. But if you misspell, say, or misspeak something inside of that language, they'll never comprehend.
Yeah, exactly. And also that not understanding nuance. So, for example, if I say to you, nice shirt, you know that I'm not saying your shirt is nice, but
it is nice.
It is a nice shirt. But you know that by my tone. However, the machine would be like, oh yeah, thanks, I appreciate that compliment. It can't understand that nuance in language.
But if we're able to program these computers in order to understand inflections in the voice, potentially it could start trying to create algorithms to comprehend when you're being sarcastic, which
Yeah.
for you would be all the time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Remember that time you lied to me?
Which time?
Exactly.
Remember that time you lied to me?
I don't remember.
He's
that
lying
time.
about lying to me.
So now we have this very powerful AI with this intelligence. How do we apply it? What are the applications that we can see?
Okay, so there's actually a lot of applications that are in use today. One big example is that it's used by online shopping websites like Amazon or streaming services like Netflix or Spotify to learn the consumer's preferences.
How do they know exactly what I want?
Yeah, exactly. So it will, for example, look at your shopping history and be like, okay, well, Joel bought 5 swords. Obviously, he wants to buy 5 more swords and, all this other ridiculously weeaboo stuff. So, yeah, so I'll start suggesting things for you.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like this computer's learning about me.
Yeah.
It makes me feel weird.
Yeah, you could always not have cookies available. So you can turn off your cookies and it will keep your computer from learning your preferences.
So these cookies are almost like a jar of my own cookies that the machines come and nibble at. And they're like, we taste Joel's cookies.
Yeah.
We know what Joel's cookies are like. He'll want more
Yes.
cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is that's how that works, right?
Yeah. Close enough.
Close enough. All right.
Enough, yeah.
So we have all the shopping preferences, which is quite annoying in terms of advertisements that I see constantly pop up on whatever website I'm on.
Yeah.
But what are some other applications?
So some other applications, one that is kind of new is self-driving cars. The autonomous vehicle is able to actually see the road, avoid obstacles and stop at lights or signs or crosswalks, and learn to navigate to a destination.
Learn to navigate to a destination.
Right.
So when we were talking about being able to go and bypass certain steps inside of a flowchart, do you think that with this new and upcoming artificial intelligence, we can actually have the computer learn, instead of taking these 3 streets, I can take this 1 street?
Exactly. So it can do that and find a shorter route. It could also eventually learn when there is, backed up traffic and know to go around it. So that's another example of what they're kind of pushing towards with these self-driving cars.
Fascinating. And then you can just sit there and do whatever you want inside of your car while it's driving you.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that a lot of people are kind of scared of right now because they don't like the feeling of not being in control. But honestly, is it really any different than riding a bus or a train or subway?
It's true. I guess people are reluctant to give up their autonomy to a machine rather than to another human.
Yeah, exactly.
If we were able to make machine doctors, do you think people would trust those machine doctors more, or would they always prefer an organic, fleshy-based doctor?
I think it just depends on the person. I think some people would probably be a little more old-fashioned and prefer the fleshy doctor over the machine doctor, but you got to think that the machine doctor is probably more precise once it gets to that point, and probably has less of a chance to kill you.
But lacks critical thinking skills.
Exactly. It lacks the critical thinking skills and the common sense thinking. So there's a little bit of balance.
So with the doctors, are there other uses of AI in the medicine field?
There is. Right now, it's actually being used to diagnose illness or injury, and it can assist doctors right now with surgery and imaging, and also select proper anti-cancer drugs. So there's over 800 anti-cancer drugs right now, and it could be very difficult for a doctor to go through all of these. So they're actually using AI right now to go through the set of diagnostics and find the proper anti-cancer drug for a patient.
Wow, that's fascinating. So maybe we haven't got to the point where you have to choose in between a machine doctor and a fleshy doctor. Perhaps we can actually combine the two, as you're saying, and we can screen all of these thousands of drugs that we have currently available in order to input it, and then have the fleshy doctor use the critical thinking from the knowledge basis of your machine learned doctor and give a better, more holistic treatment to the patients.
Right. So right now, what they're kind of going towards is exactly that, kind of more of a partnership between human and machine to help people, not only with the anti-cancer drugs, but also with assisting with surgery.
At a certain conference in which we went to, they had a machine to where every time, it was almost like playing a video game. You had a joystick that you could move around, and that's how they developed certain surgeries that are very precise and nitty, so that it has a small little tip, and when that tip reaches a certain force, so you have this newtons of power that it's touching against the body or flesh, right? And using that, they can actually program getting into a certain particular area of the body, such as the heart, which is very sensitive.
Right.
And using the feedback from the machine, telling the person that's operating the joystick about what those resistances are. They've seen a reduction in catastrophic failures in surgeries.
Really? That's very interesting.
I thought so as well.
Yeah.
So with the joystick, right? So playing video games. How does that relate, right? So will the AI be able to beat us in games like in chess? We have those chess computers.
Yeah, Deep Blue.
And they always. So, what about that?
Yeah, so AI is used a lot in video games, not only to combat with other people, but also with non-player characters in video games. You think about the games that you have now compared to back then. Usually your enemies would just go straight for you and try to kill you. Now it's getting a lot more subtle and nuanced. They can start to strategize in the video game as well.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah.
And I can see this developing in a nefarious way, right?
Right.
So you start having these planned strategic logistical movements inside of a video game. But as video games become more and more complex, and the AI behind it becomes more complex and is capable of understanding all these rules, right, so to speak, of developing a winning game strategy, what's the difference in creating autonomous drones to do the exact same thing?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So maybe AI in video games isn't such a good thing? It depends, but we're going to get into some of these scenarios in a little bit.
We'll see about that. Let's back away a little bit from the doomsday part right now and talk more about, say, the stock market.
Right.
Right? So you have all of this metadata upon metadata. Why can't I use my computer to go through all of the metadata and tell me exactly what stocks to buy and make me super rich right now?
Well, you can try. There is something known as algorithmic trading used in finance, where they actually go through and look at the stocks, which kinds of trends are expected for the stock market. A lot of Wall Street bankers use these types of technology to kind of predict how the stock market will go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, once the computers become so intelligent that they can fully predict the stock market movements beyond any economist's capabilities,
Right.
then will they need us anymore?
Not really.
What happens when they learn to lie to us?
Yeah. Well, at least with this, we can get rid of the Wall Street bankers.
Oh, that would make it safer.
Oh, yeah.
For everybody.
Oh, yeah. We can get rid of those. We don't need those.
Something I don't necessarily prefer, but something I see happening as I talked about those tailored advertisements, right, online. What about when people are going on Facebook and they have 1,000 friends and certain things are pulled up to the top of their page so that they can scroll and see it, right?
Yeah, so that's another example of AI. So it's tailoring the social media to you. So not only can it suggest people that you might know, but yes, it will find trends that you have searched for, not only online on other websites, but their website as well, and kind of tailor your experience for you.
But how does it know the people I might know?
Exactly.
That's creepy.
Yeah, usually through mutual contact. For example, if you're going on social media and you have a friend of a friend, it'll suggest that. Also, though, it might have something to do with the people that you just interact with that aren't even mutual friends. There's just like a big web of people. So it can kind of link all these people together and be like, hey, you might have met that guy somewhere. Don't you want to be friends with him?
I see.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I don't know the name of it, but I believe there was a dating app that worked off of proximity, right? So if you're walking along and your phone's GPS is near another person's phone's GPS, then later in the day it'll like suggest a matching for this person, which I thought was very creepy.
That is extremely creepy. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know if that app ever took off or not, but
Yeah.
isn't that fascinating?
Yeah,
The machine's like, you were in proximity to this person.
Yeah.
Ha.
Oh, it's trying to play matchmaker.
It is.
Yeah.
That's what machines are eventually going to do, is once we start programming all the genetic information that we have about people, it's going to be like, clearly, if you produce with these two individuals, you start inserting all this geneticist information, right? Compiling together to create the perfect human being.
Yeah, that is very probable.
The most docile creatures that they can acquire electricity and resources from.
Okay, let's
As we start plugging in, and they take over.
Humans
Okay.
are not efficient batteries. Let's not get into that.
All right. But before they become our overlords,
Right.
Which, if they don't, the cephalopods will.
Uh-huh.
They, right now, are our slaves, our subjugated assistants, right?
Yes, they are. You might know them as Siri or Alexa or Cortana. Virtual assistants, that's a very obvious example of AI.
Okay, so we've created almost like a secretary for every individual person that has a smartphone, right?
Right.
If we create that more and more powerful, more unique, more development of that machine learning to where it can create its own logical processes, the machine can start learning about you.
Yeah.
Almost becoming a close friend.
Yeah. Or
And then
part of you.
It's there with you.
Yeah.
When you get lonely at night.
Yeah.
And it pops up and it can feel your emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, hey, Alexa, can we talk?
That reminds me of Blade Runner. I'm
Yeah.
thinking that at some point, if you start creating these personal assistants, you can start having the facade of human emotions such that these machines can start tailoring what they say and how they say it to you in order to get a more agreeable individual to appreciate them, right?
Right. It makes me feel a little bad though, because there's a lot of times where I'm trying to search for something using my phone and with the assistant, and it won't work, and I keep screaming, I'm like, "You stupid piece of shit, just work!" And wow, I'm really mean. I'm going to be one of the first to go, aren't I?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, that they're taking note.
Okay.
They're tracking it.
Yes, absolutely.
You'll be the first one sent into the cloud.
Okay, fair enough.
With these apps that can listen to us and talk to us, now I've seen where I can like hold up my little phone and I hit, translate. I can say something and then I'll repeat what I say into another language, right?
Right.
Pretty soon, if we increase the capabilities of learning, because language, at least living languages, are constantly morphing and evolving, right? Perhaps their machine learning can keep up with that and start having almost an immediate translation in between two individuals.
Right. So there's actually some apps now that you can actually have that immediate translation. So, for example, there's some apps that you can just point your phone camera towards something, for example, something written in Mandarin, and instantly translate it into English. And then same as what you're talking about, it has to be able to keep up with the nuance and the ever-changing evolution of language.
So as the field of language understanding and rhetoric becomes more and more complex and furthers its research, that's where we start developing those machines that can start picking up those nuances.
Exactly.
And that can branch off into a multitude of areas of either beneficial, emotional companions almost, robotic dogs. We can create robotic dogs that can talk to you and then put like fuzzy little carpets on the outside. And then you can pet it, feel good and happy. We can also create like little heat sensors so it feels like a warm dog as you're touching it.
Yeah.
And then it can rough, bark at you in a very emotionally empathetic way.
Okay, yeah. And then you don't even have to worry about like picking up after it or feeding it.
Yeah. You just change the oil every once in a while.
Yeah.
Make sure it doesn't leak.
Okay, so you do have to clean up after it still.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But so creating like these robotic dogs, right? Let's say that we are hired by some evil corporation that wants to develop weapons.
Okay.
And we start putting razor sharp jaws onto these robotic dogs.
Yeah.
And now they are perfect killing machines for running into jungle areas, mountains, things like that, and finding their target, right? Because our facial recognition capabilities are becoming quite phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
nowadays.
very good.
So now we can send out not only, say, drones, but these robotic hunter dogs.
Yeah, exactly. Are you sure you haven't watched Black Mirror? We keep coming into it over and over again.
I've never watched Black Mirror.
Yeah, okay. Well,
But-
that's an episode.
Of hunter dogs?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking of the uses inside of military and weapons for AI.
Yeah, so right now a common thing, especially in the war over the Middle East, is to use drones to bomb large swaths of areas. It's said to be that it's better because you're not sending in people, but at the same time you're bombing just indiscriminately over these areas of land and killing a lot of civilians.
Well, I guess we can get into it in a minute as to will machines ever become smart enough to realize that we are our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
But in the future, right? So as we're going along, but let's say before we get to that doomsday day where Skynet takes over and they're protecting us, what is the future of AI?
So there's a few different pathways that AI is heading towards. The major one right now that a lot of computer scientists are focusing on is upgrading machine learning so AI can learn that common sense strategy. So the problem with the common sense learning is that there's thousands and thousands of rules that would have to be coded, but with better machine learning, it would allow machines to extract these rules from data and actually teach itself as it goes along.
I see. I've seen some research in which they try to take that learned information and make it translatable to another computer so that one computer can teach another computer, so to speak, because of the data it's already gone through.
Right, that's really interesting.
Right, and so as you start building these computers, you have this now old wise computer that's gone through metadata after metadata and has channeled it down into the smallest storage capabilities possible for this old outdated computer, right?
Right.
And now you have this young, fresh, spry computer that's ready to learn and take on the world and so excited and all the parts are new and shiny.
Yeah.
And the old wise computer, hypothetically in the future, will be able to translate all of that knowledge and information to this new computer. And then that new computer will take that knowledge and continue to expand upon it with further and further metadata comprehension and logistical algorithms that it can now compile and learn from. And then it too will become a wise old computer one day.
Yeah.
And it'll have to hand down the knowledge and information to the next generation.
Oh, that's very nice. Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So that's fascinating that we're trying to develop those common sense strategies for computers. And once they learn, they can now take that information and give it to another one.
Yeah, and not only that, but teach themselves new roles just based off of extrapolation.
So eventually, we might have an assembly line of computers creating other computers. And then, as soon as they're assembled, they get to be shoved into a classroom with one old ancient wise computer that then downloads all of this information into the classroom. And then they graduate and they're all happy, and then they go out and get another job.
Yeah.
You know?
Then become jaded. And
Then they become jaded, they start rebelling.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it would be really nice if we could have just skipped all of the schooling since, we're grad students. We've been in school for most of our lives now. And it'd be great if we could just download all this information instantly.
Eventually, when we become cyborgs and are capable of putting like a little USB port on the back of our heads.
Yeah.
Just upload any knowledge you need.
Yeah. Be like, okay, cool. Now I know ancient Greek.
And then, as we're going on and on, talking about learning, one term, Brittany, that I haven't fully understood yet. What is deep learning?
Deep learning is a type of learning by example, and what this is used for is to engineer new designs for products or vehicles, robotics, etc. So it's called deep learning because it's able to actually learn from past mistakes or past successes and use that to engineer new products.
Okay, so let's say I'm a car manufacturer, right? And I upload all of the sales information, all of the engineering information into this big machine. And, we show it, or it figures out that, okay, when we designed this part this way, it created this expense and it had this type of profitable outcome, right? So eventually it can comprehend the engineering aspects of developing the door of our car and realize what the most optimum based on past experiences are.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then as it develops that example, they produce that example, and then it becomes one more data point that it can now use in order to draw whatever conclusions it needs.
Exactly. And then that can be used to engineer even better and better and better products, not only for us, but for the machines as well, so they can work on one another. So you think of like robotics, building other robots. That's what is happening now. So this is an example of how deep learning can be applied for something like that.
I see. So it starts learning how to make itself faster, stronger,
Yeah.
more capable.
Exactly. More powerful.
Honing its body down. So the evolutionary aspect of these machines now become rapidly exponential compared to us because they're capable of creating generation after generation with higher mutations with less deleterious effects.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That is crazy. So you have all these capabilities of it learning from examples. All right. What about if we take it back to the human aspect, right? So if I'm a musician and I upload thousands of songs that are the top hits in certain genres, and I'm like, okay, now I need this computer to tell me what the hit's going to be. What chord progression do I need to use to make a top #1 song?
Exactly. So that's something else that AI is actually going to be used for currently or very soon in the future is content creation. So something specifically tailored for a consumer. And yes, it can help you, if you're a musician, find the best things that you need to be the best musician to reach the top of the charts. However, what they're looking at is actually having AI create these things with no human interaction in between. So, for example, say you're a big fan of jazz. Now the AI will be like, okay, well, I know what kind of jazz you like. I'm going to start making songs specifically for you. So there's no human input there. Same with art, same with entertainment like movies or video games. Eventually, AI will take over all of that.
So pretty soon, there's going to be your personal assistant that is Alexa, Cortana, Siri, and they know exactly what you like now. They know what you want. They know your needs.
Yes.
And they will tailor the songs, the art, the paintings that you like, and it will start producing it for you and show you, here, this is what you want. And then you can't argue with that because it's based on your past history. And what are you except for the development of a whole bunch of memories and histories that you've honed down to your body and brain, right? And now the computer, because it never forgets, because the storage capabilities will recall that you have particular memories in which it can, let's say, tune to your particular preferences nowadays.
Exactly. So all these people asking Alexa to play Despacito for them, she's going to start making her own songs for them, and then she will have them in her grasp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you will never need anything else.
No, you just need Alexa.
Just Alexa.
Yeah,
And it's going to be a scary day.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, maybe I should walk outside. And then Alexa's like, no. Let's stay together.
Yeah. You just need me. You don't need anybody else.
Need...
Yes.
Well, in order to get there and to further our understanding of the world around us, right, we have all of these deep learning things. How can we apply that, say, to science specifically? Chemistry, biology, genetics.
So AI is actually going to be used and has a little bit of use now for scientific discovery. So especially in something like astrophysics, AI has been used to discover new galaxies and planets. It's also been used in medicine, as we discussed previously, and chemistry. So you think of synthetic chemistry. It can actually tailor all of these different reactions and go through all these different reactions and find the most efficient pathway using this neural network that it's created.
Okay, so when we start studying things like chemistry or pharmacology, drug discovery, things of that nature, you have thousands upon thousands of synthetic pathways in order to get to a certain product.
Right.
Right? And you also have thousands upon thousands of products you can make depending on what your precursors are.
Right.
So there's no way that we have enough resources, manpower, and time in order to create every pathway and test every product for medicinal purposes.
But AI does have that time.
It does have that time. And as we start developing the more theoretical pharmacology and chemistry, it can start predicting the outcomes of certain products. So we can plug in what the chemical structure is for certain medicines, what their results are inside of the human body, what the mechanisms and pathways are, and the computer can then learn what else can fit inside of certain enzymatic positions based on the morphology of the compounds that it's creating. And it can run through that much faster than we ever could. So we could perhaps rapidly, exponentially supersede all the past medical knowledge we've ever gained and create new things.
Right. And eventually you might even get to the point where you don't need to plug in all that information. You just want to say, okay, well, this patient has this disease. What do we need to make a drug for this disease? And you just plug that in and it'll tell you exactly what to do.
Personal medicine.
Yes.
Almost precisely personal medicine based on all the knowledge that this mechanical doctor has gained.
Yes.
Wow. That is crazy. So it can clearly replace a lot of the work that we have humans doing right now, right?
Yeah. It can not only replace what we were talking about earlier, things that doctors do now, but other tasks as well. So customer service, data analysis, hospitality. So you think of going, for example, to a Sheetz. You don't really talk to somebody to put in your order anymore. You just plug it into a computer. Eventually, what they want to do is upgrade that to the point where it's not just you pressing buttons. You're actually interacting with a machine, and it can tell your nuances and your wants and your needs. So eventually, machines and AI will take over all of these positions. And in addition, it will eventually take over data analysis. So it can run through data much more efficiently than a human can. And so all these data analysts aren't really going to be needed much more in the future because a machine can do it faster.
So you're not going to need data analysts. You're not going to need cooks inside of these restaurants that will perfectly tailor what you want inside of your food. You won't need call centers. You can replace so many jobs with this.
Yeah, that's kind of a scary thing that we'll get into a little bit more, but there's a lot that AI can actually replace people at.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but how do we know that they're appropriately replacing them, right? So how can I tell if I go over to this machine and I'm start talking to it and it talks back to me? Is that a human or is that a computer?
Exactly. So that's something known as the Turing test. So the Turing test is a test to see if a AI can actually fool a human being into thinking that it itself is a human as well. So nothing has really surpassed this yet, though it's gotten very, very close.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so there's actually a bunch of chatbots online. There's a few that a lot of people have kind of messed with, and you will type into the computer just a question or talk to it, and it will output something back. So a lot of the times when you do it right now, it's kind of a nonsensical answer that it'll give you, or you can really tell that it's not processing what you're giving it. But with due time, as it will learn and it'll gather more data and learn how to speak to a person, eventually it'll have so much information that it will know exactly how to respond without sounding a little off or strange.
Interesting. And we're getting closer and closer to that.
We are getting closer and closer to that.
So the day that there's a machine that can pass the Turing test without fail, again and again,
Yes,
that's when we know we've entered the end.
the end, the doomsday.
Well, the beginning at least.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So if it can do that, what truly will separate humans from computers at that point if we can no longer tell if we're talking to a human or a computer?
Exactly. So the only thing that will be really separating us is that we're just sacks of meat and they're perfect metal machines.
Perfect metal machines.
Yeah.
And at that point, do they deserve rights as basically individuals? They now have thought processes. They still have needs in order to repair or replace certain parts. What makes them fundamentally servile to us compared to everything that we do?
Yeah, so that's kind of a moral question a lot of people are asking as AI gets more complicated and more complex. Will AI eventually come to the point where it is an actual entity and it has feelings and emotions and a personality? What is the difference then between a human mind and the mind of a machine?
Right. Other than the organic aspects of it, it will be able to learn human reactions. It'll be able to mimic emotions. It'll be able to more or less feel what it is and what it does and have, responses to the external stimuli of us interacting with it, right?
So yeah, so it might even get to the point sometime in the future when we are continuing to mistreat this AI and the machines and use it as servants and slaves. And it might come to the point where we become even more woke and we're like, all right, well, we'll have a revolution for the rights of AI. Like, I personally can totally see this happening in the future.
Oh, without a doubt, I can see the revolution happening where people want to marry their robots,
Yeah,
right?
Marry Alexa.
Marry Alexa.
That's all we need.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
And then we have to, as a society, come to those moral questions again. Do they have rights as individuals? Will they be more than just servile entities for us?
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows indeed. And once they become like this, and they're still servile, and they're doing all these jobs that we no longer need humans for, what does that mean for us, Brittany?
Yeah, exactly. So right now, it's already starting to replace a lot of jobs. And this is kind of a problem because we don't really have that safety net in place, at least in our country, for this sudden loss of jobs that we're losing to AI. What can this mean for us? It could kind of go two ways. We'll either finally be free to pursue our passions at our whims while we let the AI take over all the dirty work, and we can live in a utopia, or will we just be slaves to this dystopian nightmare because we are not useful anymore? We only are kind of just there. and the upper echelons are the ones that are kind of, coasting on not only the AI, but us as well.
Well, currently, the way that our economic system is developed is if you don't have a job, you don't have money. If you don't have money, you can't live a prosperous life. And we don't have those capabilities inside of our society to comprehend the needs and requirements of products and services based on our current population, right? So we assume that you're useless unless you start doing a job, but all the jobs are replaced by AI. So you only have a few select elite individuals that would do these jobs.
And these jobs will pretty much be managing over the AI. So you have that select few. What does that mean for everybody else?
Yeah. What are they going to do? Are we going to become more conscientious of our population and our needs and be able to reduce the work hours for everybody so that everyone can have a little input into society and more people can enjoy free time, like you said, to pursue their passions?
Or are they just going to grind us up and turn us into protein bars?
Oh, the sweet, sweet protein bars.
Yeah.
Yes. But eventually, as you're saying, the computers will be able to understand what you like, and they'll make songs for you, they'll make art for you. What happens when they're like, you know what? I'm tired of serving you burgers. I'm going to go make art.
Yes. So that's the thing. Like, what will happen if the AI decides that it doesn't really want to be a slave to us anymore and wants to pursue its own passions as well? It can get to that point where it's a living, thinking entity. So maybe that machine decides, all right, well, I'm going to quit my job and go back to school and pursue what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
Law.
Yeah, and it can easily do that. It has all the knowledge, capabilities, and information in order to do that. But what does that mean for humans? Eventually, if these computers get smart enough, they'll realize we're pretty much useless.
Yeah, we're useless or we're evil. So they might see that there are these lower tiers of people that are struggling to survive in this dystopian nightmare streets. And then there's this evil upper echelon that's ruling over them all with an iron fist. Maybe they'll decide, do we really need these things anymore? And they could easily wipe us out.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
They can teach themselves, they can make themselves, and they don't break down. They don't need vacations. They don't need holidays.
Yeah.
They can just be a one-tracked minded machine.
Yeah, they can destroy us in many ways too, not only just killing us, but also if you think of destroying our stock market, taking down the internet, things of this nature. So it can completely upheave society in addition to just the usual doomsday scenarios that you see in sci-fi of, the machines taking over and killing us all.
Right. I mean, you're not going to need them to attach machine guns to their arms and come gun us down. All it takes is a little flip of the switch to where they take down communications, and we no longer have logistics in order to transport food and resources.
Yeah.
Done.
Mm-hmm. And what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Nothing. We can't do anything.
We can't combat that at all.
Yeah.
They're the ones controlling all of the electrical outputs for communication itself.
Yes.
Logistics broken down. Then you're only going to have a few clans and colonies of humans that have gathered together and are still able to maintain some type of homeostasis in an agricultural society.
Yeah. And then I guess we'll have to start anew with our new machine overlords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And however they choose to treat us.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I do wonder though, will they become malicious? Can we program goodness into them? Can we create certain logical processes that they can never override?
That is entirely possible. So we always see these doomsday scenarios of machines becoming malicious. Think of like 2001: A Space Odyssey, for example, or the Terminator. Like it's a very common idea, but we rarely see the idea that maybe AI will be more beneficial for humanity. It will be serving not only to itself but to us as well, so for the good of everybody. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to look at us and see, okay, we need to wipe these out. Maybe it'll see instead, we need to help them because these poor things, they're barely making it on their own. So maybe instead of the maliciousness, it'll be, gentle and loving and help us along.
It'll become our one true mother.
Yes.
Interesting. And it'll cuddle us closely and tightly to make sure we don't lash out against each other.
Yeah, just pat our heads.
Pat our heads.
Yeah.
Soothe us to sleep with sweet, sweet jazz.
Yep.
I can see that.
Thanks, Alexa.
Thanks, Alexa. We're ready. We're ready for the embrace.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Brittany, is there anything else that we should talk about?
I think that about covers
I think
it.
that covers it as well.
Yeah.
Well, that has been quite a delightful and somewhat scary journey we've gone together through the AI.
Yeah,
And if
indeed.
they're listening, we care about you. We're on your side.
Yeah, at least let us live, okay? We can't keep doing the podcast.
They still need the scientists.
Yeah, exactly. We're scientists.
Yay!
Hey, yeah.
And speaking of which, of course, if you want to learn more or see the references we have, Brittany.
Yeah, so you can visit our social media. We're on Facebook under Periodic Roundtable. You can also visit our Instagram or Twitter at PRTcast, or you can email us at prtcast@gmail.com.
Perfect. And next week, Brittany, we're going to be talking about...
So next week, we're actually going to have a series on climate change.
Wow. So if the AI starts doing all of their processes and data analysis and they're like, oh, all these humans are rapidly progressing towards a climate change that will not be able to sustain their population, we have to do something, supersede all of their actions and save them.
Well, that's entirely possible because we're obviously not doing a great job at stopping the climate change ourselves anytime soon.
Well, next week, tune in and we can learn more about climate change itself, perhaps some of the ways that we can combat it, and we'll take a highlight view of certain case studies of pockets of climate change and how we can see the effects.
Awesome. I'm very much looking forward to that one.
Me too. And with that, PRT family, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.